What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Madhouse. And today we have the meta report from this past weekend. Did Amber Steel just destroy everything? Is it the top contender? Is there a way to bring it down? You might be surprised by what we see in this week's meta report. I know a lot of people are really mad about Amber Steel aggro right now because aggro just has a lot of haters and people just don't care for Amber Steel either. But you might, like I said, you might be surprised. All right. Now, with that, we have 9 different events that reported their list to Inkex. There were 11 total events that had the minimum amount of people, but unfortunately 2 events just didn't share the list. They only shared 1 or 2. But with that being said, remember, get your list reported to Inkex. It's as easy as it's ever been before, okay? So put that in there because then we can actually develop kind of these meta reports to get a better idea of what's going on. If you really hate Amber Steel aggro, then maybe if you get your decks submitted and everybody does that, we can find the decks that are really beating it down. But let's get into it. Before we do, though, the trivia. This is a fun one because, well, a lot of people might not know. Which came first, Disneyland or Disney World? Which one's the first castle? Is Disneyland or Disney World the first castle? Okay, that's a question for you. Let me know in the comments if you know the answer, right or wrong. Let me know. But let's jump into it, and here is our top 8 analysis. And again, this right here is everything that made top 8 from the 9 different events, and then we have the top 4, some conversion rates in first place. Keep in mind these conversion rates, this is more, if we had more lists to look at, you know, like 100, 200, 300, these conversion rates would start to mean more. So don't put a whole lot of weight behind the conversion rate. But, you know, looking at what's making top 8 and then what's getting that first place might be something a little bit more to look at. But what's getting top 8? Well, Amber Steel is cooking, right? Amber Steel is there. We got Wheel. So Songs is just Amber Steel with a whole new world. It might run Beyond the Horizon. It might run a couple different things, but it has a whole new world. So we got 9 of them taking top 8. And then out of 9 events that reported their top 8 lists, and then Amber Steel, 2 of them made top 4, and then 0 took first. So that is really interesting. Amber Steel has been a deck in the meta reports that consistently does well of getting into top 4 and then getting that first place finish, but now coming in here and just not cutting the cheese, right? But next up, we've got Amber Steel mid-range that went crazy. Amber Steel top 8, 9 of them, and then 7 of them made top 4. Now, I will say Amber Steel mid-range is any Amber Steel list that also runs the Singer 4 and the Zeus. So some of them, I think of those, of that criteria, 3 of the 9 were more aggro variants. So they had the just really heavy aggro, but running. So Lady is a good example of that. And the other 6 are going to be more of that Sky Amber Steel mid-range. They're running the Beast. They're running the Namaris. They're running the Be Our Guest. But 9 of them getting top 8, 7 of them going to top 4, but only 1 getting that first place finish. And we'll talk about this in a minute because, we'll get there. But next up on our list, Discard taking 9 of the top 8 places, and then Blurple still doing well. Blurple, if you remember from 2 weeks ago when Set Champs started, Blurple was one of the higher played decks, and then still 50% conversion rate, 1 first place finish. Blurple has what it takes, and it's in a good position because it can really do well against red blue. I mean, it just does well into everything right now, except really green yellow discard. Green yellow discard, if you're a Blurple player, that is not the matchup that you want to see. Let me get my face out of here really. There you go, so you can see the bottom. But next up, we've got DKP, 7 making top 8, and then 4 top 4, and then 1 first place finish. And that, of course, being the red blue burn variant with the Maui half sharks and the McDuck Manors and things like that. And then finally, we have our Amber Steel Rhino aggro list. So this is your pure aggro, but instead of running like the Prince, you're running the Rhino shift package, and the only songs you're running are Let the Storm Rage On and Strength of a Raging Fire. So 6 of them making top 8, 4 making top 4, and 2 of them getting first place. So if you look over here in the far right, you'll notice that Amber Steel Rhino Aggro is the deck that got the most first place finishes this past week. And I believe it was Amber Steel Rhino that also won the Madrid event, something like 673 people, I believe. But you can kind of just look at things. We got stacks down here, green, blue, one of them making top 8. Unfortunately, none of them getting top 4, or that one not getting top 4 or first. But we do see the Christmas tree discard. That's going to be your Emerald Ruby, your red, green, two getting top 8, one getting first, one getting top 4, and of course one getting first place. And we're going to look at that list as well in this video. But green, yellow, aggro also doing well. Get two going there. We got red, yellow, aggro, that hyper aggro type list, 2 of them making top 8. So aggro just doing well. There's a lot of aggro in here, and then tempo in here. So that's one thing I think that is kind of important to look at. We got Amber Steel in a world where Amber Steel aggro is one of the most played decks right now. A lot of these tempo decks are doing a really good job against that aggro variance. When we see the red, yellow aggro, we see the mid-range Amber Steel, the aggro Rhino, you see the tempo. I mean, Amber Steel mid-range is tempo. Kiwi down here, which should be called Allies, is a very tempo variant. So a lot going on. And speaking of that, you know, we've got one making top 8, one. So this is actually wrong. So this is actually 2 of them made top 8, 2 of them made top 4. Unfortunately, none got the win, but they showed up, and I think we look at both those lists. But let's move on from this. You guys can see it. And next up, we've just got a little bit more of a breakdown if you want to see the graph variants of it. Red, blue items. These are all the lists that made top 8. So we got red, purple, evasive, 4 of them, and then 2 red, purple controls. That's when they're not running the Peter Pan with the evasive rush, and then also they're not running the Pirate's Life, the Maui Half Shark, that package. Green purple discard still played more than green purple tempo, and then meanwhile Amber Steel, just this is wild. Amber Steel really is the deck to beat right now. And what makes it difficult is you have to be able, if you want to try and tech for Amber Steel, you have to be able to play against all of them. So that's where maybe Blurple, you could really tech hard into beating the Amber Steel aggro list, but unfortunately you really suffer into the Amber Steel songs, so you have to be prepared for that as well, as that Amber Steel songs again being Steel Song or playing a whole new world. And then red blue items and red blue DKP 7 and 2 down here. And then next up, this is the Inkex matrix, and I think this might be hard to see if you're watching this on your phone, but what I wanted to highlight on this is, again, go to Inkex. You can check it out. You can break it down into week, month, year, and kind of see what is being played the most that's being reported to Inkex. How is it performing against different matchups? So if you look at green, red discard, that Christmas tree deck, you know, we had 2 people run it this past weekend, 2 of them making top 8, 1 of them winning, and you can see what they played against and how well they did overall. So, and that's pretty good. Green, yellow discard also really high up there. Again, remember, green, yellow discard, extremely difficult to play. So keep that in mind. But then of course, we see these hyper aggro lists. Amber Steel aggro just coming in hard, really just putting in a lot of work against all of these decks. So just something to look at. I encourage you to go to the site where you can see it a little bit better and get an idea of, you know, maybe you expect a lot of Amber Steel aggro and you want to tech for that. So what's been doing really well? And so if that's the case, I look at Amber Steel aggro here, 50% into itself, loses. So how am I reading this? So here and then down, so 33%. Now here's my question. Maybe you let me know in the comments. Maybe I've been doing this wrong the whole time, because I read it from over here. So if I look at green purple bounce, it has a 33% win rate, and there we go. Okay, so I look over here. I want to play aggro. How do I want to do? Well, if I want to play aggro, I better dodge green, yellow, discard, all right? But if I play green, yellow, discard, and, you know, I want to see, it's like, what does really good against Amber Steel aggro? Green, yellow, discard, 100% win rate. Steel Song, 55% win rate, and then everything else not so great. Okay, so that's how you can kind of use this graph and maybe make a choice based off of what is being played. So next up, we have my list. This is kind of, again, this is how I break down the list. I go through Inkex. I find the events. At this point, I'm doing more than 20 people because that's what's being, it just gives us some numbers, and I take the 4, and I have, on my actual Excel, I have a whole bunch of other stuff, but this is kind of the basic version. If you are interested in this to see how things kind of lined up. One thing that is really interesting here, and we'll talk about it later, is the 3K event, the Revival 3K at Sharp Gaming. That's 6 of the top 8 decks were Amber Steel, which is pretty wild. And then if you look, again, more Amber Steel. So if you're in this region, maybe it's your best. Maybe you need to play some green yellow discard, right? You need to play something that does really well into these Amber Steel decks. But let's look at some lists. These are lists that did well this past weekend. I think it's not all Amber Steel lists because I just didn't want to focus on all Amber Steel lists. So it's a lot of different things, and we kind of talk about what they're doing really well, how they're kind of playing into their meta, maybe some things that you might want to change based off of your local meta, and kind of maybe play some off meta stuff because there are some lists in here that are pretty off meta. So first up is my buddy Kyle, and he's rocking some blue steel. I'm going to show off 2 blue steel lists in this video, and in these blue steel lists, they're both actually very different. This one is rocking the Allies idea. So the Allies idea is actually pretty awesome. So you have this Jasmine, and then you can shift on turn 2 this Jasmine. So you can immediately take control of the board with something like Let the Storm Rage on if you needed to, even singing Zeus if you really needed to. How far I'll go to get that ramp is extremely powerful as well, but also Jasmine's ability to just feed you characters is also really good. Meanwhile, you have Doc for draw power. You have this Aladdin right here letting you play more cards, which is always great. You have Grab Your Swords to help you against that Amber Steel aggro that's running around, maybe red-yellow aggro in your local meta, and then Bagheera as well. So now you have this chance that a lot of people are not big fans of Bagheera because your opponent can kind of dictate what they're going to do. But at the same time, your opponent has to respect that Bagheera's there. So if Bagheera, for example, you get that Bagheera down and then you swing, your opponent can no longer quest with Rhino. If they quest with Rhino, then Bagheera can hit into the Rhino. The Rhino takes the damage and then gets wiped away by Bagheera's 2 damage that it's going to do after that. So Bagheera can put in a lot of work against green steel discard it's against Amber Steel aggro. So Bagheera coming in really clutch here. You got some reach with the Baymax that can put in work. Maybe, when you have a 2-5, a 2-4, a 5-5, that Baymax able to do a lot of good stuff. Little John helping you answer the bird. Calhoun again. So this deck is really built in a good position to really beat up Amber Steel aggro. And I can say that Kyle played at a set champs that had a lot of Amber Steel there. So it did well. It took him to second place, and he played into what he expected and came out on top for it. Now, unfortunately, the list that took first place is another one of my buddies, Paul, and Paul was not running Amber Steel aggro. He was running this green-purple tempo list, and another list that if you're looking to really beat up on Amber Steel aggro, green-purple tempo can do a good job at that. I think that blue steel list has a lot of answers. This green-purple list has a lot of answers as well. And when you look, it's green-purple tempo, and these levers just being able to put in a lot of work. Hypnotic Strength being able to put in a lot of work as well. You have reach with Go-Go to Mago, a lot of questing power with Cricky and the Ursula. So there's just a lot of different things you can do with this list to have a lot of success. And I don't think you'd be in a bad position to run green-purple tempo either. It does well against red-blue. I don't think it has really any bad matchups. If you have a lot of discard in your area, Peter Pan answers the Diablos really well. You have, of course, your own Diablo draw, your own discard package as well, or ways to clear your opponent's board if you need to. And then these big questers they're not easy to deal with. We've all been in a position where we had to answer Ursula Sea Witch Queen of 4/7/3, and it's just never really that easy. So on top of it, with Hypnotic Strength, with Crab, you just have a lot of good ways to answer rhinos as well, or win the Genie Wars. That Hypnotic Strength, being able to banish the enemy's purple Iago, give that Genie +1 challenge or +2 challenger. Sorry. So just a lot of work that you can put in with green purple. This was also Paul's first set champs first place finish. So congratulations to you, Paul. But another good list into Amber Steel. Next up, though, we've got Andrew at Gorilla Lobster rocking some red purple evasive. And I wanted to highlight this. He didn't get first, he got second, but I think red purple evasive is in a position where it can do really well against Amber Steel Rhino. Now, it's not going to do, in my opinion, it's not going to do as hot into that pure Amber Steel aggro, but we're just not seeing as much as that. So now with the Amber Steel Rhino, I think if you go to tech against Amber Steel Rhino, then red purple evasive has the options to tech and win against it. When you run all these 1-drops, your opponent just can't answer all of them. So if you go something, you skip turn 1, turn 2, you drop Chernobox, 2 Chernobox followers, 2 Diablos, it doesn't matter. And then then you have Crab on turn 3. So if you had Chernobox followers plus Crab, that can clear that shifted Rhino. If you have Ursula on turn 2, that Ursula plus Merlin's Crab can clear the Rhino. So good answers there. And then with things like the Peter Pan, and if they don't clear Peter Pan, that Maui Half Shark is coming down very soon. And that Maui Half Shark being able to use those Pirate Slice over and over and over again means that that aggro deck is never going to get there. Not to mention, Peter Pan, playing that Peter Pan Shadow Finder into Iago next turn lets you clear most anything your opponent wants to do. So I think red purple just has a lot of answers. Now, one of the issues for red purple right now, and one of the reasons I think it's not really just kicking butt everywhere, is that if you really tech to beat the aggro decks, if you really tech hard to beat, these really fast Amber Steel decks or these red-yellow decks, then unfortunately you have to sacrifice some of the cards that are really good into red-blue to throw in cards that are really bad against red-blue. Cards like this Ursula that you just don't really want. And you have to sacrifice things like Tremaine or Finders Keepers and cards that you'd rather have into that red-blue matchup. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And unfortunately, Andrew's loss was against a red-blue player. And that just kind of happens when you opt to run cards that are going to be a lot stronger and you're trying to tech against the deck that you expect to see more of. But I think red purple, another deck that's in a great position right now to do really well. So if you've been sleeping on red purple, you used to play it a lot, maybe now's the time to sleeve it back up and give it a try. But next up, we've got Randolph Pub. This is Marco that played at Randolph Pub, who took 4th place with a very different blue steel list, and this one is exciting. I love this. It is a little bit more old school. It's more reminiscent of the wheel list that we're used to back in the day. And we've got some really cool tech in here. I love the Pyros tech. This is something that my buddy ran in his list that he really loved and did really well with it as well. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may ready chosen character. So now this Pyros can come down, and if you used Arthur on him, then he can just clear an entire Amber Steel board and be perfectly happy doing so. So that is pretty awesome. Meanwhile, we have the Lucky Dime. You don't have, any big Tamatoas, right? So there's no big item questing going on, but that Lucky Dime gets 3 lore here, 2 lore, 2 lore, 2 lore, 2 lore. So even 2 lore with Billy Bones here. When this character is banished, you may banish chosen item or location, which can be really good against that red-blue, right? If they have that McDuck Manor down, maybe Billy Bones is the way to do it. So that can be a great thing to do there. So the deck, it just has a lot of different answers. It has a lot of different abilities, and it could do really well against Amber Steel. It's something different, right? It's off meta, it's fun, it's different, it has answers to what is in the local meta. So I mean, if you do get lucky enough to see the pop bell on 1, so that's a great thing. You get to let the storm rage on if you need it, and then you TPO, and then you only have one more turn until you go to Pyros, which is going to be a crazy swing turn coming your way. There's just a lot of cool things the list can do. And so Randolph, really good job. Love seeing it, and I hope that you see more success with it. So next up, we've got board games. We got Ethan taking first with Purple Steel, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think Purple Steel is an excellent deck if you have a lot of Amber Steel in your local meta, if you have a very diverse meta. I think this Amber Steel tempo version is a really good way to go if you don't want to run something like Amber Steel. I mean, it just has everything that you want in a list. It has the questers like Smee, which is just a strong quester. It has the reach from the goat, the rose. It has reach from Cobra as well. You can challenge all these 1-drops are going to be getting you a whole bunch of passive lore, the power of the bounce Pete mechanics. So that is just extremely powerful. If you're against red blue, then you can bounce rabbit to draw a whole bunch of cards to feed your Cobras. The list, Purple Steel just has a lot of things that you're going to want to see into a very wide meta. And I think that, again, this version is a great way to handle a wide meta. The Fire the Cannons, I'm a huge fan of, and Fire the Cannons is a difficult one, though, because it's not a great card in game 1, right? So game 1, when you don't know what your opponent has, it can be really rough because it's a card you really only want in your opening hand, and it's a card you really only want in your opening hand most of the time against Amber Steel aggro. So you can blow up that Cindy, you can blow up that Rhino. So now you alter it away in your opening hand because you don't want this dead card against all these other decks because you don't know if it's Amber Steel aggro. And luckily in set champs you have a better idea, so maybe you'd be more safe running 3 versus 2 because you can kind of see, you kind of know what everyone's running there. You kind of take a peek, right? You look a little left, look a little right, you do your little walk after your win. But just keep that in mind. It's a hard card to run because that game 1 you don't really get to utilize it the way you might want to. But the list overall, Purple Steel, I think is just a phenomenal direction to go if you really just want to do well against Amber Steel and just have a list that can do well. So next up, we've got Sharp Gaming, and we have a few lists that I'm going to showcase from Sharp Gaming. And at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about Sharp Gaming quite a bit, mostly their 3K, or I'll bring it up again. But this first list, this is Zane taking first with an Amber Steel tempo list. And this is one of the important things to note about this list is I think at Sharp Gaming, the top 3 players at the 3K Revival were all on Amber Steel tempo or that Amber Steel mid range. And I didn't look too deep into it, but I'm pretty sure all 3 players were running the same exact list and all 3 players on the same team. That's team being over there with Sky and those guys. But the list is good. They figured out something that works really well, but there's one caveat to this list. You need to dodge red blue. All right, you need to dodge red blue. Yeah, you need to dodge red blue, and that's something really important to keep in mind. And again, at the end of the video, we're gonna go more in depth into talking about the differences of Amber Steel right now. But this list right here, another really strong list. This Amber Steel mid range just does everything you want it to do against all the decks that aren't red blue. I mean, it has that strong ability early game to control your Beast for draw power, your Ursula Troubadour to seeing anything you want and win a lot of trades, but also create Rapunzel value with the Rapunzel and the Ursula. Be our guest, finding you the cards you need, and be our guest, being such a unique card that can open up so many lines for you, because it's not just a one-trick pony. It's not, okay, be our guest, I'm always using be our guest to find me this card. No, in every situation, it could be something different. Maybe maybe you can set up the Rapunzel value because you can search with Be Our Guest to find something, or find the Rapunzel that you need, find the Pete, find the Beast. There's so many options for Be Our Guest, and I absolutely love that card. But the list is just consistent. The list has a lot of ability. It does really well against Amber Steel aggro. It does well against Steel Song, and it does well against Amber Steel overall, and it does well against all these tempo decks that I pointed out in the very beginning. The list is very, very, very strong, and I encourage you to give it a try. If you do like a more mid-range type of gameplay, this is definitely going to be right up your alley. You know, if you wanted to try something a little bit different, then you could look at something like Artabax's recent video where he used a list that was running Lawrence's. Personally, I'm a bigger fan of running the Lawrence's because you don't auto lose to red-blue, but so I do run my list very similar to this, just slightly different because, well, I don't like auto losing to red-blue. But really good job, Zane. An impressive win with a really strong list in Amber Steel, so it makes it even sweeter. Next up, though, again, Sharp Gaming. This is at the big Sharp game, so I believe it was an 8K, no, 5K. I think it was the 5K. Cody took first place with this Christmas tree list, this red-green, and you love to see it. It's awesome. It's this red-green action list. You have this powerful Lilo effect, only running 2 because you don't want a whole lot because you can't always get her down. But when you can, it feels good. But you also are on this strong discard package. You have the incredibly annoying Prince John to draw you a whole bunch of cards with all this discard. You have the Hypnotize, the Sudden Chill, the Undermine being something we haven't seen a lot of. So dual ink, green, red, chosen opposing character, chosen opponent chooses and discards a card. Chosen character gets +2 this turn. So what's awesome about this is let's say you play Ursula, then you play Prince John, and then turn 4 you use Undermine, and then so you give your Ursula +2, your opponent discards a card, and now your Ursula can take something out. So you can see how this list could be really strong into aggro with just one card like Undermine. Meanwhile, if you play Ursula, our Queen of Hearts, really good into Amber Steel aggro. Ursula, really good in Amber Steel aggro because now you take out one of their most powerful starts, which can be Cindy plus Song, which is really good. And then maybe you're safe to play Diablo after that if you wanted to. So there's just a lot of power in this list. And then meanwhile, you still have the Maui Half Shark plus Pirate's Life to really be able to close out games against something like Red Blue or Red Purple, those more grindy games. And then finally Hidden Cove, another great way to really shut down Red Blue Big Sizu or shut down Let the Storm Rage On, things like that. So the list is just really cool. It's a lot of fun too. If you haven't given it a try, maybe check it out, sleeve it up, go on to some locals or Pixelborn Connect and give the list a try. You'll be surprised at what it can do. So really shout out to Cody for winning with such a unique list. We haven't seen red green really anywhere for a really long time. So I love to see it. Really good job. Really. So next up we've got Zulu. We got Austin that played at Zulu with this red blue items, and I think red blue items, another list that's can really shine right now. It can be really good in Amber Steel aggro and just Amber Steel in general. It just has what you need to beat Amber Steel. You have the ability to ramp really fast. You could play Sizu or the Scrooge McDuck. You get that down. That Scrooge McDuck going to be able to trade into most of the Amber Steel aggro lists, or Sizu being able to answer Sizu being able to answer Daisy. And then meanwhile, they have to answer your Sizu, otherwise, well, Sizu is coming down. You're going to shift into that Sizu-empowered sibling. Meanwhile, Sizu-empowered sibling able to challenge into the opponent's Rhino or just quest for 3 or challenge into anything, which is really good. And then Vitalosphere being another force to be reckoned with, because that gives you the ability to just trade into even more things. And of course, you have the one B prep in this list. You have Merlin's Carpet Bag. So this Merlin's Carpet Bag is so good against a lot of these more grindy decks, because now what can happen is you pay 1 ink and tap, return an item card from your discard to your hand. So that doesn't like you can just keep doing that. So you just draw all these cards with that one popsicle, and meanwhile, if you have Maurice's workshop down, you're drawing even more cards, and you just refill your hand so fast. So I think red blue items, another great list into if these more mid-rangey decks get really popular, then I think red blue items is in a position to continue to get even better, because I do think Amber Steel mid-range does better against the DKP version than it does against this red blue items variant. That's personally, I believe that, but yeah, I think red blue items, Austin getting first, I believe his finals was against Amber Steel aggro also, if my memory serves me right. So another good list that could do really well. I think red blue, just it's in a good position. You just have to, as long as you can survive the first couple turns, you're probably going to win the game. Like, that's pretty good feeling. So finally, this is the last list we're going to look at, and also my favorite list that I saw this weekend. This is Matthew taking fourth place at the Sharp Gaming 3K, and I love me some Kristoff. I was so happy last set when Kristoff was so popular, thanks to one of the Ravensburgers people, but I love Kristoff. I think it's such a cool card. I think it's such a fun play style, and I love that he's running It Means No Worries as well, that ability to bring back characters back from your discard. So it's an awesome list. He took fourth, unfortunately losing to the Amber Steel mid-range list, and I could see that those decks, again, they do really well against a Whole New World list. So this list where it's running those Whole New Worlds, where you don't have a lot of quests for twos, then Amber Steel mid-range, it's really going to have a great opportunity to overpower you. But I love the list. I think it is awesome. But you have to be careful. If you want to give this a try, you cannot alter super heavy. You're running 3 9-drop uninkable characters. You're running 2 9-drop uninkable songs, and then 4 uninkable 5-drops. So just keep that in mind. You have to be very careful with your alter. So give this some try before you just run out and go crazy. But the list is really fun. If you wanted to go really, really crazy, run the Shift Mulan, okay? I was telling Mo today on Twitter, that's my toxic trait. Whenever I see Kristoff, I have to slam in some Shift Mulan and just go crazy RNG and just do some wild, nutty things. But I love this list. So really, shout out to you, Matthew. I think it's awesome, and I hope you continue to see success with it. But the last thing I wanted to talk about, this is has Amber Steel reached broken territory? You know, a lot of people, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they think that Amber Steel is just ridiculous. They hate it. And I think this is a popular thing whenever aggro is really popular, is people just hate seeing aggro do well because they feel like they've lost before they ever get a chance to play the game. Kind of like how they feel against Green Steel Discard when Green Steel Discard is popular. I just think it's different with aggro because they're just questing, right? And it's just over so fast. The games are done in 5-10 minutes versus Green Steel Discard. You always feel like you have a little bit of a chance because the games take an hour. So, but this in the background here, this is the 3K. This is the Sharp Gaming 3K, and I've seen some people bring this up. When you look at it, 6 of the top 8 lists are Amber Steel. Now, these top 3 were, of course, the Tempo mid-range, and then these next 3 are the Whole New World variants. But I think if there's one thing to note, I do not think Amber Steel is broken. And this is not going from a biased point of view. I am an Amber Steel player. I love me some Amber Steel. But I do not think it's broken right now. We're in an interesting place in the meta where the reason Amber Steel can do so well is, well, because quite a few things. So Amber Steel Tempo is in a really good position because of Amber Steel aggro. Amber Steel aggro can beat Red Blue consistently. So because Amber Steel aggro can beat Red Blue consistently, then Red Blue isn't doing super hot getting to those top 8s. And so in those top 8s, that Amber Steel Tempo is then able to beat up on the Amber Steel aggro. So because of this, because the aggro decks, it's the it's the rock paper scissors I've seen people talk about. It's that triangle or whatever you want to call the meta where we have this aggro deck, we have this tempo mid-range deck, and then we have this super control deck. And if red blue can dodge the super aggro decks the whole day, then they're probably going to win because they'll hit those Amber Steel mid-ranges and then beat them because that's what they do. Those Amber Steel mid-ranges do not have a great win percentage. Steel Song with Whole New World has a 50-50 in my opinion, but still, what's happening is because Amber Steel aggro is just so good and it's aggro, so people kind of just naturally move towards it. It's just doing really well, and a lot are showing up and beating out red blue. So it's just an interesting place in our meta right now, and I'll be interested to see, are we going to continue to see more Amber Steel in the next couple set champs? We'll find out. I'll continue to do these meta reports, but I don't think it's broken. It's unfortunate that of the three archetypes right now, where the three kind of the triangle or whatever you want to call it, two of them make up Amber Steel, and then you have red blue. But like I said, there's a lot of lists in here that are really good against Amber Steel aggro. It's just a matter of running them, right? This purple steel, again, really good against Amber Steel aggro, but again, it's a full-on tempo. It's a lot of people, maybe you're not a big fan of that play style, whatever it may be. I think red purple, you can tech for it, but then you might lose out against you might be in a worse position against red blue because you tech for Amber Steel aggro. So there's just a lot of different things to look at, but a lot of these lists, again, all these people on here did really well against Amber Steel, so something to consider. But with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you know the trivia. All right. With all that, remember, nothing matters more than staying happy and healthy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you around.